on the one hand, we have courts, regular courts. On the other hand, we have election tribunal courts. Now, there are cases in some courts now. I think one example comes to mind is the one in Bauchi, where the case is taken to a regular court. Should that case go to a regular court or election tribunal?
Now, election tribunal deals with matters that happen during and after the elections. The regular courts are supposed to deal with matters that happen before the elections. Now, the elections are over. If there are problems, the politicians ought to leave INEC to complete their work. If they think there are infractions, you now go to the tribunal and get it sorted out. And I think the courts that also go in to grant others ex parte in this type of situation may not be doing good to the system.
But concerning what Mr. Oyekomi raised about disruption of process and then, elections are stopped, what do we do about some of those? Because politicians are pretty smart. They look at those things and they know, just as he said, if they are weak in a particular area, they go and disrupt it, knowing that that is not their stronghold. If it's your stronghold, they disrupt it and they may eventually have their way. How do we make sure we don't keep allowing them have their way on that?
And that is the point, because the INEC, like he is saying, that means they are aware that this type of thing can be happening. All they need to do is to see how do you protect those areas. And that is why if you have all the security agencies who are stationed in different places, you have also the military that are there. How did these people penetrate into the place? Okay. At what point did they attack? What did the police... Because if you know these things, you should have maybe 2 or 3 security agencies right inside.
All right, well, let's get back to the point that you were making about getting sure, how do we ensure that, politicians don't keep having their way by, external interfering in another person's stronghold?
Now, it's a question of the security agencies being impartial. When they are impartial in the system, because there are reports that maybe either a governor or his supporters may be able to be using the security agencies against the others. So when something will happen, the security agencies will just be watching and nothing will happen.
But don't you think if we improve the process, we'll take it away from the politicians and from security agencies themselves?
How do you improve it if there is no consequence for an action?
If we transmit the results electronically from the polling units to the center, wouldn't that ensure that those things are...
That is one aspect. But remember that during voting, it's just like what happened, for instance, in Okota. It was in the process of voting that somebody came to disrupt. Because, politicians will always be ahead. It can be during... If somebody knows that maybe Party A will get 70% of the votes, and 20 minutes before the end, because you transmit at the end. That's what, because remember the card reader, except we go full electronic voting, which will solve the whole problem. Full electronic voting is that as you're voting, your vote is already counting in Abuja.
But when you say politicians will always be ahead, that's an indictment on security, because security should be ahead of politicians.
But that's what we see here. Well, why do we have what is still happening today? The politicians are always ahead of the security agencies. Not that the security agencies cannot do better, but for one reason or the other, they are not doing better. The next thing is they will talk about funding. Yes, funding is an issue for them, but is there really a commitment? The other day we were here talking about what happened in Okota, 5 minutes away from police station, or a divisional police post. So if we start being serious now and say, let us stop this, if somebody does that, now in this era where you have a lot of people with cameras, with video, and people are captured while doing this, and within the locality, people will understand that this man has been punished. If somebody comes armed, to disrupt the system, we have very serious laws against the person. The person is risking life.
Does that negate the argument for restructuring or reorganizing our police force?
Reorganizing our police force without having the will to do what we ought to do, without holding people accountable for not doing what they ought to do. Somebody should be held accountable. I think this issue of accountability is the issue of leadership. And that leadership must come from the top. If, for instance, the president says, the IG, what has happened to people that disrupted, political processes? People took pictures, people took videos, and people are encouraged to take videos when this type of thing happens. Because if he's if he's in Europe or other places, the state has cameras in many strategic places. The state cameras, the security cameras will pick up these issues, and those people can be apprehended.
All right.
International observers, nationals of other countries, U.S. ex-ambassador, and a number of other people have been talking about our elections and the way we conduct ourselves. Don't you think we have a perception management challenge?
I wouldn't want to say we have a perception, except depending on what you're asking. Are you asking whether the perception, is it that the perception from outsiders, what they perceive, that I think they are perceiving us for what we are. The way they perceive us is actually what we are. What we need to do is to change our ways. If we don't change our ways, people will see you for what you are. If you see election as a do or die affair, if you see election that you must take it, you do anything possible. And if you see yourself that you are helpless, you cannot stop it, maybe because of interest or incompetence. So why are you want them to change your perception of what you are not? I don't
So
really
what do we
get
need
it.
to do?
No, what we need to do is, one, to be committed to the process. That is, to have leaders who will be committed to the process. Process of good elections, process of doing the right things at the right time, process of competence. I take, for example, like the CPS to the chairman of INEC was saying they have challenges. Yes, I agree they have challenges. Now, when we talk about prosecution, like I have insisted, that part of our greatest problem is the prosecution, investigation and prosecution. If I go and disrupt election in a place, cameras have caught me, at least private cameras have caught me, I expect the security agencies to investigate to find out who am I representing. If I'm representing a particular candidate, because it's not prosecuting me that is the issue, it's also prosecuting whoever is my principal. Tomorrow, the next principal will not do the same thing. Tomorrow, the next candidate will not do the same thing. If you don't trace the thing up there, you're still wasting your time. Is it just the allies that you go and pick at Oshodi, and you go and prosecute them and jail them? The next one will take up the next day because he is looking for food. But if you're able to trace it to his agent or to his principal, it becomes easier to stop it. And then if security agencies cannot do it, remember that prosecution is actually within the domain of INEC. Why wouldn't INEC insist on that prosecution? And where security agencies are not doing the right thing, tell the world that, look, we are asking them to do this work and they are not doing it.
All right,
I think with that we'll get to the right
Mr. Chukwuma Ezela, a legal practitioner, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts today on the supplementary elections. But on a programming note, we would like to let you know that by 7 p.m. today up until 9:45 p.m., the supplementary election studios will reopen with our colleagues Ladi Akeredoluale, Ijomo Nyato, and Nyota Egbe. And then much later tomorrow, we'll have a much more expansive coverage of all things supplementary elections. So from us today, from the Supplementary Election Studios this morning, thank you for watching. I'm Chamberlain.
I'm Gimba Umar.
I am Akile here saying have a wonderful day.